In today's episode, I spoke with Vic, the WordPress nurse, and we had a fantastic conversation about all of the things that happen behind WordPress and exactly what it is she does and how she helps businesses and how she can help you get the most from WordPress and deliver a great website. I hope you enjoy the episode. I really enjoyed talking to Vic. Good afternoon. Welcome to the David Watson podcast. How are you today?
Oh,
How
I
are
thought
you?
you were talking to your audience.
Oh, no, it's a recording. It's a recording. Um, so yeah, no, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yeah, I've got my head full of jobs and different things as I always do, but I'm calm with it.
One of the things when I was looking at your website that fascinated me is because the WordPress nurse and on Google and stuff or LinkedIn especially it's a WP nurse. Where did the idea come up to attach it to medical? Because you actually have the hospital, the care, the clinic, A&E, maternity, and I thought that was genius. Because it's just like I honestly could almost in my mind see myself walking around a WordPress hospital. Do you know what I mean? It was very visual for me, and I was wondering where that came from.
Um, well, the idea I'd been doing basically what I do now for several years, but I found it impossible to explain to people what I was doing if I was in a networking meeting or something. And then I was given the name by a lovely lady in a networking group I was in, who just I kind of stumbled through my kind of 1 minute as I always do. Nobody knew what I did. And then she said, "Oh, you should call yourself the WordPress nurse." And then I thought that sounded like a genius idea for a name. And then I took that to the kind of creative and marketing power group at another networking group, told them the name, and they just ran with it. And everyone was going, "Oh yeah, you could have a maternity unit. You could have a," and
It's
that
genius. It
at that
really is.
point, it really is, because at that point it became so easy to tell people what I do. As long as they know what WordPress is, I only have to say my business. And then people with WordPress sites are my customer, really. So,
I,
I've had work from WhatsApp groups where they've said, "Oh, introduce yourself." And I say, "Oh, I'm the WordPress nurse." And somebody will say, "Oh, I need you."
because that is it's like I said is when I was first looking at the website and you have your standard the home, the about, and contact and info, but then there's this bit about the clinic, the A&E care and maternity, and it suddenly kind of made everything in my mind 3D, as if I could walk around and go down the corridor for my WordPress problems. And I was just and do you know when I don't know if this happens to you, but you're looking at something and you suddenly realize where you've gone with something that was a really simple idea, and you've turned it into this big imaginary world in your own head. I mean, it might just be me, but
Oh, it isn't just you.
and that's where I was with your website, just by when I was just scanning around it, and I was just, oh, this is actually absolutely genius.
Yeah, you've kind of really got it there, David, because that is, like I would like to say, yeah, that was my genius idea and I developed it and I did build the website for it. But yeah, the development of it was, there was a village
Yeah.
involved in the development of it.
I mean, but that actually does relate to what you do, doesn't it? Because everybody, I mean, I remember because I looked this up because WordPress was originally launched in 2003, May 2003, and then later, I think it was in November to the sort of kind of to the general public that anybody could have access to it. And the very first WordPress websites were really simple. They were really, I mean, because I used to have one, and then I don't know at what point it was, but it wasn't, it'd be around about sort of 2008, 2009. Suddenly things had changed and you needed a bit of a skill set, and it's like, oh, I've got
Yeah.
caught out here. I've got a little bit behind. And I remember ordering a book for like, it was supposed to be simple WordPress. and it was like 6 inches thick. I was just like, oh, I've got myself into a bit of a trouble here because I'm not, I'm not that sort of computer literate in the sense of understanding, well, WordPress and all the little plugins and everything that go along with it. And so, how did it develop for you?
um, I was using it. I was actually a photographer,
Yep.
um, and I had used it to build myself a website. And then I'd built a couple of other websites for friends, and I'd built a new website for myself. Um, and I'd learnt it by basically banging my head against the computer. You know, it is really complex. Like you said, it started off as a blogging software and it just kind of ballooned. Um, then I ended up teaching it.
Oh, wow.
And that was how I actually realized, because one minute it was a really confusing piece of software that I was desperately trying to use myself to build things. And through having to teach it, suddenly it kind of opened up my knowledge of it, and I kind of stuck my head into it. And I thought, oh, well, you could actually do anything with this if you knew what to do. And that was several years ago, but it has, it's really, really ballooning even more now. It's really just the kind of outer structure for a whole ecosystem of different softwares that people put into it. So it's a beautiful, complex subject.
Because it is. And so, when you were teaching it, were there some sort of common pain points that you find with your customers still today?
As far as using it is concerned,
Using it, developing it, confusion around what it can do?
um, I think one pain point, especially at the moment, is what I just mentioned, is the fact that when you say WordPress, you're not talking about a single piece of software, you're talking about an ecosystem.
Yeah.
So people might say, oh, I've got this WordPress site, but then their problem is with Divi or Elementor or a plugin or, some other bit of software that is just kind of plugged into it. So I think that's, if you've got someone who knows Squarespace or, I don't know, Outlook or Word or some other piece of software, and you become an expert in it,
Yeah.
then you know it, but that's not what it's like for me. And for my clients, they might have maybe had a WordPress site before, and now they've had another one built, and it is utterly different.
Yeah. I mean, I found that because I've had Wix sites. Is it Squareface, Squarebox? I've had WordPress.
Squarespace.
Is it Squarespace? Is it? I've had various interactions with all of them at a very limited level. And like I said, I think when first time I ever used WordPress was back in the days when it was a very accessible blogging site for writing, and I used to just kind of just write whatever was on my mind on that day. Um, and then it turned into, like you say, a completely, and it evolved, didn't it, into an ecosystem, and
Mm,
with that there became all of this sophistication, and people, like you said, you either banged your head against the wall figuring it out, or you drifted away, and
mm.
it's so. Are there many things that people are surprised about now by what you can use WordPress for?
I don't think people are surprised now, because people don't talk. It's not seen as a blogging software now.
No, that's true.
So people who are coming into that, people mainly or often they'll have something like a Wix or Squarespace site that they've built themselves, and then they think, oh, I want a proper website. And they think, oh, right, now I'm ready for a WordPress site, as if it's kind of, you start off in the nursery with Squarespace and things, and then you graduate into a WordPress site, and that's like the proper website. Which that isn't the whole truth of it, is it? That's one way that you can make a proper website, but it's so popular and widely used that it's almost synonymous with kind of having a grown-up website.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first global software in terms of the where people could it encouraged people to build their own. As far as I remember, I don't remember anyone
Mm.
else being before them. And so, when what do when somebody because you build websites as well for people, don't you, with WordPress?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
what do people need to be aware of when they're sort of not aware of? That's probably the wrong way of saying it. But I'm coming to you, and I've we can assume, which is probably quite true, that I've no idea what I want. What's useful for you to know when somebody comes to you with an idea that I have a business and I want a website?
The number one thing that I need to know is, what do you actually want the website to do? Why do you need it? What is its job? As it, if it was an employee, what would its job description be? And until somebody knows that, then they're going to be lost in a website project.
So the function of it, what you're hoping it will
Yeah,
achieve when people
yeah.
use
And
it.
for some businesses, that's really obvious. I'm selling candles. I
Yeah.
want people to buy my candles online. But for a lot of businesses, it's kind of, well, are you showcasing yourself, or is your number one goal for people to join your mailing list? Or is it for them to follow along with you with your blog and get to know you and then buy from you? Or are you actually, there's a lot of different things that a website could do.
Yeah, because I can imagine that people, and I've definitely been guilty of this myself. Is I just like, well, I want a website for my business, and somebody, and then you're just like, well, what do you want it to do? And it's like, well, and because I think the question sometimes is, well, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah. And I mean, it can be anything, can't it? From just a brochure, like you've got an online version of a leaflet that you would flick through, or it could be your shop,
Yeah,
or it could be your broadcasting channel, or it could be just a funnel where you're collecting people.
I like that idea actually. What you just said, that's really helpful because yeah, it could be just like a leaflet if you're trying to just a leaflet for your business, like an old fashioned flyer. It's because the shops are always if people want to shop that's kind of almost self-explanatory. They say, oh, I want to sell online. But yeah, I like the leaflet concept of no, this is the I want a virtual sort of leaflet for my business. So
Yeah, so people want to know who you are, and you give them a link instead of a leaflet.
have you found your background in photography helpful in designing these websites?
Um, yeah, immensely, particularly when it comes to optimizing images to put on websites. Um, because in digital photography, which I also was teaching, there's quite a deep knowledge needed that connects with how you would um, display them really well for the web, because there's a lot of, for instance, not having the file sizes too big, but having the images looking good and having them the right width of the page. Um, all of that's really useful. And then obviously, because I'm from a visual background, that helps with the design of the sites. Although I'm actually not, I'm not a graphic designer. And in an ideal world, I would work with a graphic designer on the actual look of the site, even though I'm from a visual background. But yeah, that certainly helps.
Well, that's because I mean the thing about photography that's always fascinated me is that the difference between one thing I've noticed with all passionate photographers is they can see a shot that no one else notices, and and
Mm.
you do what I mean. It's not like a Pinterest sunset or anything like that. That they can make a nail look interesting. It's just as
Yeah.
a mountain landscape. They see that something in that square space that
And you're going around with that square. Oh, I can't do it.
yeah yeah that
You're going around with that square in front of you the whole time, sometimes an imaginary square, and you're kind of, you're looking at things like, oh, that would look good. Yeah.
because
it,
that must transfer over to WordPress as that you must as you're developing see something before it's there.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, and also even if you're not creating the thing and you're looking at different ways to solve it, that kind of troubleshooting process, which is probably my main skill, that's a similar kind of thing. Oh, how would it look from this angle? Or could I look up at it maybe? Or could I get rid of that bit and put that bit in? It's conceptually a sort of similar thing.
Yeah, no, because that's because that's what I mean is there's always transference of skills I find across developments and departments and stuff like that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing how many of these things interlock with each other, which is why
Yeah.
they transfer so well. So you just said something there about troubleshooting. What are there any common points that you come across when you're asked, like if I went to you with an A&E approach?
Um, the the very very first thing I would say to you if you came to my A&E department is everything up to date? Is all the software in your site up to date? I would say that is the number one reason that sites break, is that everything isn't. And then
I
they'll
know
go,
my
oh,
answer would be I've
I
no
went in there
idea.
a few years ago.
That would be me. I went in there a few years ago. I didn't understand what was going on, so I just
Yeah.
turned it off.
Yeah, and 80% of the time, if you get everything updated and kind of fix all the little thing, well, sometimes there are little conflicts that happen between the different bits of software, but nine, 8 times out of 10, the problem is caused by that something's on an old version.
Oh right.
Because the developers of the little bits of software are constantly fixing the problems with them. But obviously, if you don't put in the new version, then you don't have a fix.
Where do things like SEO sit now, as in sort of levels of importance?
Um, the ongoing content SEO is really a copywriting job.
Yeah.
So, but the important things in the actual build of the site are the technical aspects of, like, it loads really fast. It's got a semantic structure, like the heading structure is right. There's access for search engines to crawl it. It's got the necessary information about what you do, including
Yeah.
the tags on the photos and things like that. And so then it forms a kind of basis for you to then go on to do your ongoing content SEO.
Well, because that's something interesting, isn't it? Because I'm assuming then, especially when things aren't updated and it comes to like search engines, Google, which all of them are changing as well as social media plugins. That the minute that your site isn't fully up to date, they're probably getting skimmed over as opposed to being in the algorithm of searches.
Yeah, definitely. If there are things that make them difficult to crawl or difficult to understand by the crawler, which is, the crawlers are basically fairly stupid little robots that have one job.
Yeah.
And if you don't make it really easy for them to understand, then they will just go away. They'll kind of bounce off it. So,
So when I'm trying to think because, like I said, I get so confused myself now when I just think about my old WordPress site, which was over a decade ago. Um, so when you're approaching, say, a new website, how does that start, and what are the layers that build up to a finished product?
so first of all, it will be a deep bit of research into the business itself and why they want a website. As I said before, that's the big question. Once you've got that information, then you can go about designing the journey that the customer will take to that goal. And then I normally ask people for a primary and a secondary goal. So there's a main job the website does, but then if they don't do that thing, like they don't buy your candle or whatever, then what would they do instead? Maybe join my mailing list
Yeah.
or, get in touch with me. So there's kind of one big goal and one little goal.
So what? Well, so I was going to say, so once you've established the two, the main priority and the secondary priority, what happens then? Is it because do you need them to do the copywriting? Do you, I mean, do you source pictures? Where do you need their input, and where do you need them to just let you do your magic?
Um, I'm not a copywriter, so yeah, they do need to produce the content. I will source pictures from a free agency for them if they like. And the way I normally like to work is I will produce the design with pictures from a picture library and dummy text, but not just blah, blah, blah. I'll put, this is the section where you'll explain this about yourself. So it's a kind of guided dummy text in it so they can see exactly what the site's going to look like. But then it will be up to them to produce that or find a copywriter to produce it.
Yeah.
With the images, they can keep the stock images that I've chosen if they like, or those can act as a kind of suggestion of what I think they should put
And
or
so,
what I
so
think they
what?
should send me.
So once I've got WordPress, I've sent you the content, the text of how I want it. You've chosen images. What happens next?
I will produce you a design of your homepage, which will have a tiny bit of back and forth about until you say, yeah, that's great. And then I'll produce the rest of it in that style. And you'll have access to some of the pages to kind of look at my dummy text and write your own text and things like that. And it is kind of, it's most of the visual design is what I'll do most of that initially before you even come and look at it, having had a long discussion with you about what you wanted to do.
Yeah. So
Once that's all accepted,
yeah,
there's quite a lot of work for me to do in the back to make it all work properly, and the back end to do what you wanted to do, like the emails that the site sends you not to go into your spam folder, for
okay.
instance, or for it to be accessible to people who are using different kinds of technology to access a website.
Yeah, so I guess that
So
comes under like laptops and mobiles, don't it? Because you normally have two different is it interfaces or two different views now?
um, well, it's not really two different views is quite old school.
Yeah, there you
now
go.
now you have one view that changes itself according to the size, and it all kind of collapses down, called a responsive website, so it will collapse down to the mobile view.
Oh wow! See, that's how behind I am.
If you get a newish looking website up on your big computer, grab the edge of it, drag it across, you'll see the elements kind of go
All
into
right,
place until they're in a mobile format,
I
which
didn't know that.
is that's one of the longest and most boring parts of producing a website, is to take that design that you've agreed with the client and make sure it looks good on all different devices and with all different browsers. That's one of the biggest jobs of it,
So
really.
explain that to people, because that's a very good point, isn't it? You have to make it available on all devices.
On all devices and on all browsers, because all browsers
Yeah,
pick it up differently. So if you're using an iPhone with Safari on it, there might be slight differences between using it with Google, not Chrome, sorry,
yeah.
on it. So there are those kind of differences. But then when I talk about accessing it with different technology, then there are people who are using screen readers because they can't see the content, or they can't use a mouse, and so they need
Yeah.
to scroll through it with the keyboard. There's a whole other layer of stuff there, and a large proportion of websites aren't even accessible to people who need a little bit of extra help to access them like that.
I do remember, think and somebody might correct me on this in the comments, but WordPress was also one of the first. I don't know if it was speakeasy, but where you could have a plugin that would read out what you'd written. So for people with harder hearing or something like that, or
Hmm.
were blind.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't. That would be a new one on me. Because what I know of it is that all that technology is kind of in the browser
Yeah,
or in a special software that people have on their computer. Um, but yeah, I'll have to look that up.
I'm sure they were because I remember putting it in as a plugin, like 15 years ago or something.
Yeah, there are definitely plugins that you can get that help you with that.
So,
Yeah, for sure. And there are some themes are better at it than others as well.
so I've used that word plugin a few times, and I've actually realised I don't know what it is, not properly what they are and what they do.
So a plugin is a piece of functionality, or a little bit of code that makes it do something that you can just kind of put in the site, and it connects up with the WordPress site and makes it do the thing, whether that's send you messages from a contact form or a booking, or I don't know, and there's an infinite number of things. So it extends the functionality of the software itself.
So it's literally it's a, it's a because that's the funny thing is it's literally it's a plugin. So
Yeah, you plug
so
it
it's
in.
yeah it's typically a piece of code, computer code, that tells the WordPress site to do something or allow access or send something to someone. It could be another site, it could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
anything.
I mean, it's different. It's literally the explanation of it is little it's a piece of code that you plug in that extends the functionality. But that extension, I was just going to list a few, and then I thought, is anything that you can think of that you might want
Yeah.
your website to do, you can find a plugin to do it. So obvious ones are contact forms and things like that, but there's an infinite number of things.
Do you find there's much misinformation or myth around WordPress these days?
um I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah, I think there are quite a lot of um, not so much myths or misinformation, but misunderstandings of it. One of them I've already mentioned to you, which is that it's like a piece of software that you use. It's not. It's an ecosystem. I think
Right.
that's one of the main misunderstandings that people have. Another one, which I've also touched on, is that you can just have your site built and then it just sits there and you don't have to do anything to it. And that's a very, very common misconception that people have. And one of the things that feeds that is that some systems, especially the hosted ones like Wix and Squarespace, they've got people in working for the company who are doing all the updates and everything like that. But with a self-hosted WordPress site, you're responsible for that.
Yeah.
So the people who develop the software are bringing out updated versions, but it's your responsibility to put that in your site, to actually update it in your site. So that is a common misconception. Another one is that you should be able to. I mean, on the one hand, it is kind of designed for people to be able to build it themselves.
So are
But one
houses, but they're
misconception
pretty
is that
complicated.
that should, yeah, well, one misconception is that means that it's going to be simple or that it should be simple.
Yeah.
And one of websites are hugely complicated things. They can do a massive range of things. They have to be displayed on loads of different devices, different browsers, used by people with different abilities and needs. It's so hugely complicated. One of the misconceptions is that it should be like developing a brochure or a
Yeah.
poster or an advert or something, because that's how it looks at the front.
It's how it's sold as well.
Well, it has to be, doesn't it? Because you can't sell something to someone saying this is a hugely complicated thing that you are really never going to understand. Even if you like the WordPress Nurse Vic Martin, you spend 8, 9, 10 years doing it all the time, you are still every single day going to come across something that you think, whoa, it does that. Or I have to do that. Because it's just so, it's like a big kind of spaghetti sculpture.
Yeah, because I mean that is a good point. You wouldn't be able to sell it if they sold it like that. It's like, oh, by the way,
No, of course not.
I know you're a genius, but you're not going to figure this out. So, but buy it anyway for $9.99 a month.
Yeah, but what you're selling is the front end, isn't it? It's like you're going to have this amazing marketing tool that you can, when people say, oh, what do? You can give them a link and they go there and they see you and they see your stuff and they read your words and they go into your funnel or they join your mailing list or whatever it is that you want them to do. Kind of almost like the shop front of your business.
Do you have
That's what you're selling to
yeah,
people.
it is. I mean, because it is, isn't it? It's the virtual shop front. So this is my business. This is how you get in touch with me. This is how you find me. It's what we sell. This is how we can help you. Do you have a standout kind of customer or website where somebody's come to you and then you're just like, oh wow, that's amazing, with a product or an idea or anything?
Oh, I don't know. You're putting me on the spot now, but I can't think of one.
Is your variety of customers must be massive. It's
Yeah,
unlimited,
yeah,
isn't
it
it?
definitely is. It definitely is. Um, I've worked with a lot of people in healing professions, and that is quite largely because, especially at the start of my business, I did an awful lot of women's networking.
Yeah.
So I was coming into contact with a lot of people who were doing various types of healing or therapy. So I've got quite a few of them under my belt. But I've also, a real variety, because the thing is, when you talk about ideal client, for me, it's somebody who, well, I mean, leaving aside the maternity unit for a minute,
Yeah.
all the rest of my departments are centered around people who have already got WordPress sites. So that's kind of the niche.
Yeah.
It's not therapists who have got WordPress sites or musicians who have got WordPress sites, or, I don't have a niche business wise. So yeah, a huge variety.
So, well, so like you say, so leaving the maternity side alone, what the other three that you have is care, clinic, and A&E. So
Yeah.
let's start with care first. So what's the care?
So in the care home, I'll look after the site month by month. So for a small monthly charge, I host it. I do all the updates. I take backups. I fix it if something happens in the updates. I take care of the speed, make sure that it doesn't slow down. I take care of the security, and just make sure that it's kind of fully locked down, because it is WordPress is attacked a lot by hackers, and that is only because it is so popular.
Yeah.
It's not because it's easier to hack into than any other software. That's another misconception about it, actually.
Well, because that's a good point, though, isn't it? Because, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I remember seeing a security analyst talking about this with Apple a few years ago, and they said like Apple's much more secure. He said no, Apple has a tiny market. He says that's why Microsoft always gets hit, because 90% of the world runs on it. And like you say,
Yeah,
WordPress is probably
so
more
there's a
secure.
massive advantage.
Yeah.
There's a huge advantage to a hacker to get into a WordPress site, because then they've got access to millions of other sites that use that same plugin or whatever, however they've got into it. So
So you
I
help sort of
help
provide the
protect them.
security as well, then.
yes, I help to make the site itself as secure as it can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's done on. So the care side of it is a monthly retention that effectively takes care of everything.
Takes care of everything as far as keeping the site running properly, but not at the adding of the content.
No, 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 for sure. This
But
is literally um, the kind of the updates, the service, the security. It's like it's almost like if you lived in an apartment block. You're the person in the background that makes sure everyone gets lighting, heating, the water, the toilets.
I'm the caretaker.
Yeah, yeah, everything is done,
Yeah.
but you won't notice I'm there.
Yeah, you won't notice I'm there, but if you want to get in touch and say, what is going on with this? I don't understand how to do this, then I do that. It's not in my contracts, in my actual contracts, but I do kind of secretly work as a sort of tech advisor for my clients as well. You know, quite often they'll email me saying, I don't understand this email that I've got from, do I need this thing?
Yeah, yeah. And what's the clinic?
So the clinic is, I can do reviews of sites. I can do further development on existing websites. So if somebody's got a site that I can do visual refreshes, I can add functionality, I can add pages, and I can also give tuition. Like I'll do a one-to-one Zoom session, or what I've found is actually better for people is I'll do a pack of videos. So they'll send me a list of things that they want to know how to do, and then I'll go into their site and make them a pack of 10 videos on how to do those little tasks.
You will do the videos.
I'll make them just a screen recording of me going around saying, yeah, this is where this is how you put this in.
So a pre-recording conversation you and I were having, that is perfect social media. Those screen
Yeah.
recordings. If
Mm,
no matter how many
yeah.
people you've got of them, they are the best thing you can put up.
Yeah, it's very, very niche audience. Well, first of all, the reason that works for my clients is because I'm doing it in their site.
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, so that's
It doesn't matter what it tells people. What,
mm,
what you're showing people is why, um, how you know what you know.
yeah. I'm not. I just feel like it's not a very sexy subject for TikTok.
No, no. It's but you could upload them onto YouTube as links on from your own website to YouTube because what you're demonstrating to people. So look, if you look at somebody who builds a stone wall, right? It's a simple stone wall. But if he shows you 200 walls he's
Mm,
built around the Cotswolds, they all look the same. The backgrounds, the landscapes, the locations are all different, but it's still just cement, bricks, or stones. But what you
mm-hmm.
have is
Yeah,
a library showing his experience, her experience. That's
yeah,
a mechanic, a
yeah,
mechanic who just services cars day in day out. Says no, I don't do repairs. I just service cars. That's it. Once he's got 10 customers telling everyone, yeah, yeah, I go to him for service, and he doesn't do anything else, but he services cars really quickly and efficiently and economically. Oh, everyone's like, oh, well, that's 10 people. Before you know it, he's got 100. He's
yeah,
what you say is dull is what somebody else doesn't know is a problem, and they're like, well, who can I go to do this? And if you've got 20 videos literally talking about the most boring technical things on WordPress, they're sat there like, this woman's a bloody genius. She's an expert at this, and that's
if
trustful.
that's the exact thing that they want, if that's the exact thing that they
Well,
want, yeah,
they
yeah,
don't
it's
know what they
true.
want. They've absolutely zero idea what they want. What they want is somebody that can demonstrate a level of expertise. So think of every history program you've ever watched. The reason you trust the presenter is because no matter what question they're asked about that subject, they know it, right?
Yeah,
And the only reason you think they know it is
yeah,
because you don't.
yeah, Yeah, that's true. They could be saying anything.
Yeah, so you're like, oh, they must be an expert. And you've got so much content, it's unbelievable. Because anybody that wants a
Yeah,
website,
but
if they don't have a website, you're literally demonstrating your ability to build that website, why you're good at it, what you know to take care of. Because I don't know to take care of that, but you do. And you know why that's important. So because you know why that's important, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to get involved. What I need is, so if I give you this monthly retainer, everything's taken care of. And you're like, yeah, all right, we're good. Because I've already looked at all your content. I've watched some YouTube videos. I've seen some stuff on TikTok, and it's like,
yeah,
right,
and
you're the person that
yeah,
knows.
yeah. I've got my eye on TikTok as something that I think I should do. Should.
TikTok could be Facebook. It's the 1 minute reels. The reason they're popular is because I can put the same 1 minute reel on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. The same reel, and I'll have four different audiences looking at the same clip.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's it. Some things do really well on TikTok, other things do better on Facebook. And you
yeah,
can, like, if you planned it out, did 52 pieces of content, that's one a week. That's your content done for a year. And I bet you, if we went through your computer, you've easily got 10 1 minute clips. Or you can put longer
yeah,
form
yeah. No
tuition.
doubt.
Yeah, you can put longer form tuition on a YouTube channel, and in that YouTube channel, just always in your description, have your website, how people can get hold of you, and have that in the about section. And
Yeah,
link.
yeah. The idea of using ones that I've already created—that's a great idea.
It's not extra
Yeah.
work. It's just uploading them.
Yeah. But the sad thing is, when I say that's a boring subject, I don't mean that I think it's boring. I'm
No, but you'll be
infinitely
amazed. You will
interested
be
in it.
absolutely amazed at who's interested in what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you're right about that.
Honestly,
Yeah,
I
absolutely
don't want to
sure.
be arrogant or big headed. I know I'm right. You will be astounded at how interesting that is to people, and how fascinated people are, and the problems that you can solve for people without even realizing, and the reach that that will give you. Whenever I'm looking for something on YouTube, there's always somebody who's gone to the trouble of doing a screenshot and showing you how to do it step by step by step, and that has fixed so many computer problems for me. And some of them are no more than
Yeah.
2 minutes long, 3 minutes long, because that person knows exactly what they're doing. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's not just your knowledge that people are interested in, and that they want to pay for. It's that knowledge can do something in 5 minutes that will take me 2 days to learn.
Hmm.
I'm going to
Yeah.
learn about mistakes I haven't even know I've made yet, that are well off your radar, because you know exactly where that point is, and exactly what needs to be done, and how to navigate there and glide through. I am going to be the world's biggest drunken, fumbling idiot, just trying to solve a problem that I don't even realize I caused.
Hmm.
And do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm the walking migraine, and you're the solution.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what those screenshot videos all do, and what and how they can help people.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that's definitely true. And I've watched more than my share of that kind of
So
thing when
so
I've been
you've
trying to
even
find
watched them.
them. Oh God, I watch them all the time. Yeah, but you're right though. I should put some of mine up.
Honestly, because everybody that is, well, it's like everything, isn't it? It's the the ability to demonstrate to people, this is why I'm good at what I do. Because
Hmm.
no one questions you're good at what you do. You are. You know you're good at what you do, but other people don't, because you're not telling anyone that you're good at what you do. But it's why. And one of the greatest things, like WordPress, one of the greatest things it did for writers is, I don't need a publisher now. I can just put my stuff on screen and put
Yeah.
up a website, and anybody anywhere in the world who's got access to the internet can see what I'm writing about, what I'm thinking about. and it exploded everything. I mean, it started. I think it started. I could be wrong, but it started things like the Huffington Post and independent journalism on a whole new level. Then there was the hobbyist writers, people like me who would just randomly write in our thoughts. You know, and
Yeah, yeah.
for a while
It
everybody
it
was on it.
exploded. I mean that whole thing. Not I mean not so much not specifically WordPress, but the internet in general
Yeah,
has completely exploded our view of what knowledge is and who can put it out there in good and bad ways.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's the pros and cons to everything. But in terms of tutorials and expertise, you are at a very distinguished level. And you not only that, but when you start breaking down, if you looked at it from a customer service point, and we'll do this when we talk next, we'll do this, right? You
Mm-hmm.
literally will come up with 20 things that customers trip over on. What are those 20 pain points? Right? And I bet you can find a screenshot or a solution to all of them.
Yeah, yeah,
And
no
so
doubt.
that's 20 pieces of
Yeah,
content. And within that 20 pieces of content, there's probably another 5 pieces of content related to one. And before you know it, you'll have 5 years worth of videos and just put 1, 2 out a week. Just, YouTube or anything. And you could just link it to your own website, YouTube tutorials and stuff like that. And you'll be amazed at what happens. And actually just talking about the latest WordPress updates, what they are, why, what's important, what do people need to know, and why is it happening? Because there's so many things you and I have discussed, and I just lost. Do you know what I mean? All of these things that you just take for granted, and I'm asking for simple explanations because I don't even understand them anymore.
yeah, and that I mean that is a bit of a problem with my profession. Really, I remember I had a networking meeting with some. I was so embarrassed. I had a networking meeting with someone, and she said, "So, what do you do?" And I went on for about 10 minutes, going on about WordPress and how blah, and you can blah blah blah. And at the end, she said, "Okay, so just to confirm, we're talking about websites here, are we?" And that was when I suddenly realised, oh, not everybody even knows what WordPress is, and why would they?
Yeah, because I mean, simply you solve people's website problems.
Yeah, I missed a bit of that. I don't know whether it's my
I
connection.
said, I said, simply put, you solve people's website problems.
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah, and I fix their broken.
yeah, exactly. And it's like we were discussing earlier at the moment about the hospital fee. But when people, like the amount of times I've been to A&E for stitches over the years is ridiculous amount of times. And but I just take it for granted that the nurse knows what she's doing. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
don't question how many years training she's had, how many stitches she's put in, where the needles are or anything. I just assume she knows exactly what she's doing, and that's
yeah.
the
You do,
same
but
nurse. Yeah,
then if it
that's,
went, if she put the stitches in wrong, then you would be
I probably have enough
that's
knowledge of
when you would
stitches
start
to
to
know she's
question
done it wrong.
things.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
when you look at the general sort of medicine nurses, their range of knowledge of what they have to, we turn up for A&E with 1,001 different complaints every day, and we expect that nurse to know what they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We
and
don't.
it all comes with experience, and they're still not going to know in a
But
lot of
that's
cases, are they?
you for WordPress.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the idea is a genius one.
Well, it's the best, the best one I've seen. It is absolutely fantastic, and that's the thing. If you look at it from that social media point of view, there are so many pain points that people are yet to discover. Things that there are people that will be relatively good on WordPress that you can help with tutorials, and it makes you become the person that people go to. And the
Mm-hmm.
more do you,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same thing, but do you have backlinks for WordPress and things like that to other websites and stuff?
On the site.
Yeah,
No, I don't have loads of links going out. No,
because one of the
no.
things I don't know how I honestly don't know how it works for WordPress or anything like that. But there's just if you've got lots of links on your website to tutorials on YouTube and stuff, that helps you in the Google algorithm and in the Chrome algorithm.
Yeah, as
And
long as
it's
they're really, as long as they're good quality ones, you have to
yeah,
be careful with that. But
oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But do you know what I mean
yeah.
just people looking at your website or people going from YouTube to you and you back to YouTube and stuff like that? It'll keep you high in the YouTube search engine every time somebody's got a WordPress problem.
Hmm.
Because they'll
Yeah,
be like, oh, well, Vic is the WordPress nurse, so she's the one we go to.
yeah, yeah.
We'll do something on it. We'll do something on it. So just quickly to round up, finish off. This is the most random question you'll probably ever get, and it's absolutely nothing to
I
do
bet
with.
it isn't, but yeah.
Well, it's been successful so far, but it's nothing to do with WordPress. I want you
Okay.
in your imagination because there's no rules to this. If you could be in any place, any time, anywhere in history, where would you be? What would you be driving? And what music would you be listening to?
Okay. I think that I would be in the future.
Nice.
I'd be several hundred years in the future. I would be driving some kind of airship, personal airship that's like a bubble
Yeah.
that just kind of floats along, magically missing everyone else's bubbles. And I would be listening to some. Oh, there's so many things that I might be listening to. It's very difficult to pick one out. What would I be listening to? Um, some real 1970s disco,
Oh
something
yeah,
like
excellent.
I'd be dancing to something like Disco Inferno by the Tramps.
Nice. I'm liking that. I'm liking that a lot. That's been brilliant. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, David.